Unit 4 Review, Question 19. Round the number represented below. So we're given a number line, and there's a number plotted here. We don't know exactly what it is, but we're going to use the idea of rounding an approximation to round it to the nearest whole number and to one decimal place. Okay. So for whole numbers, this lies between 3 and 4. So to round it to the nearest whole number, we want to know, well, which is it closer to, 3 or 4? And our cutoff point is halfway between. If it's less than halfway between, we'd round to 3. And if it's 3.5 or bigger, we'd round to 4. So this point is definitely to the right of 3.5, so to the nearest whole number, it is 4. Now, what if we round to one decimal place? And this is equivalent to rounding to the nearest tenth. So remember that the tens place is one decimal place, not 2. Whereas 10, if we had 32, 3 would be in the tens place, and that's 2 digits. But the tens place is 1 digit or 1 decimal place. So you want to find, well, what does it lie between? So these are tenths because they have 1 decimal place. So it lies between 3.6 and 3.7. Okay. Our halfway mark would be at 3.65, which looks like it's about here. So our point is definitely closer to 3.7. So rounded to one decimal place is 3.7. Let's look at the next one. Round each number to the indicated place value. So here's a description on how you round numbers, but we're going to use the place value chart and these ideas as we go. So we want to round 0.064 to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to put this in the chart. That's 0 ones, 0 tenths, 6 hundredths, and 4 thousandths. Now if I want to round to the nearest hundredth, that's 2 decimal places. Okay. I look to the right, and I see whether the digit to the right is 5 or greater. That's like the halfway point from the last video, and it is not. So that means I'm going to round down, which means I'm not going to add 1 to the 6. I keep the 6, and I'm going to drop that number. So to the nearest hundredth is 0.06. Now let's round 7.078 to the nearest tenth. So here's the tenths place. I look at the digit to the right of the tens place, and it's bigger than 5. Okay, so that means I'm going to round up. So I'm going to exchange this 0, add 1 to it, okay, and disregard all the numbers to the right. Notice I didn't even care about the 8 there. It didn't matter. I was just looking at the digit to the right. So to the nearest tenth, this is 7.1. And then 3.15 to the nearest whole number. Okay. So whole number means to the nearest ones place, because that would eliminate any decimals. We'd cancel everything out to the right of the decimal. So we're going to look at the tens place. Let me highlight that. So this is where we're rounding to. The tens place is 1, so that's less than 5, so we're going to round down. So I didn't add 1 to the 3 like I added 1 to the 0, and I just drop all the numbers to the right. So the nearest whole number is 3. Let's look at the next one. Write the decimal approximations for the given numbers as place value numbers. So let's look at the first one. The population is approximately 8.82 million people. Okay. So lots of times people round. I'm sure it says approximately. It's not exactly 8.82 million people, but we also don't want to say the whole place value number, which we're going to see is pretty long here. So we're rounding, turns out to the nearest hundredth of a million, but let's see what that means. Well, notice this is 8 whole millions. So I'm going to go to the millions, and here's the 1 millions, and I have 8 there. Now I want to look at this decimal value. So we have 0.82. Now that's not going to go over the decimal value over here because it's 0.82 million. Okay, so what's nice is that means it's immediately after the 8. So we have an 8 here and a 2 here. So once you put the whole number portion in the appropriate place value, you just write the rest of the decimals to the right of it, and then you need to fill in everything else down to the ones place with zeros. Okay, so this is going to be a whole number, so we're not going to write any decimal quantities. So this is 8,820,000 as a place value number. So maybe you could see that's a lot longer to write, so sometimes we abbreviate in this way. Let's look at the next one. A building is approximately 22.4 thousand feet. Okay, I just noticed I should have written people here. Okay, it's now 22.4 thousand feet. So the whole number part is 22, and that's in thousands. So I'm going to go to thousands, and I need 22, so that's 2 10,000s and 2 1,000s. Okay, now the 4 is one place value to the right, so that goes here. And then I'm going to fill in zeros all the way down to the ones place. So 22.4 thousand feet as a place value number is 22,400 feet. Let's look at the last one. A bug has a radius of approximately 5.6 hundredths of an inch. Okay, so this is hundredths, so this is a really small number. So let's see. So we have 5, that's our whole number part, but that needs to be in the hundredths. So I'm going to find the hundredths, and I'm going to put a 5 in here. Just like the other problems, the 6 is directly to the right of 5. So 6 hundredths ends up being 0.6 hundredths is equivalent to 6 thousandths. But now, unlike the last problem, I need to fill the place value to the right of the or to the left, excuse me, of the decimal, between the decimal and what we had here. Okay, and we might put a 0 in the ones place to show that the whole number portion is 0. And we have 0.056 inches. Okay, so notice here it changed from millions of people to just people because we wrote the whole number, thousands of feet to feet because we wrote the place value number, and instead of hundredths of an inch, this is in hundredths, so we just wrote inches. Let's look at the next one. Approximate the following fractions with a decimal by dividing on your calculator and round to the indicated place value. So our first number is 7/9. Okay. So I'm going to get the calculator ready. And remember, fractions can be thought of division as well, and that's how we're going to use it here and divide 7 by 9. Okay, so notice this is 0 point, and then it has a whole bunch of 7s. The calculator is actually rounding there, rounding up to 8, but these 7s actually go on forever. Okay, so rounding this to 2 decimal places, I am going to write out to 3 decimal places. Remember, that's all we need. Okay. So this is 3 decimal places, and I want to round to 2. So I wrote the third one because I need that one to know whether I'm going to round up or round down. So given that 7 is greater than 5, I'm going to add 1 to the hundredths place, and it's 0.78. Okay. I didn't need any of those other 7s to the right. I only need 1 digit to the right of the place I'm rounding. So now to the nearest tenths place. Okay. Well, if I want to round to the tens place, I just need the hundredths. So I'm going to write 0.77. Okay. Don't use your previous rounding because it could change. Okay. So 0.77. I'm rounding to the nearest tenth. The digit to the right is greater than 5, so I'm going to add 1. So to the nearest tenth is 0.8. Let's look at the next one. Now here there's a negative sign, and all that matters, we don't include that in our calculator, is our answers are going to be negative. We're just going to focus on 10/17. So if I divide 10 by 17, I get this fraction, or this decimal fraction. Notice it does eventually repeat. There's a 588, there's another 588. So there is a pattern that's continuing here. But we're just interested in writing it to 4 decimal places. So that means I want to go out 5 decimal places. So 58823, that's all I need. Okay, so 58823. Okay. So I want to round to 4. I needed the 5 to see if I round up or round down. Okay, and since this is less than 5, I round down. So I just drop this number and I don't change this number. So it's negative 0.5882. Now let's round to the nearest thousandth. Actually have the digits I need here, but it's best if you focus on the calculator so you don't use a pre-rounded version. So thousandth is 3 decimal places, so I'm going to look at 4, which is 5882. So 0.5882. Okay. I want to round to the nearest thousandth. Now 2 is less than 5, so I'm not going to round up. I'm going to round down, which means I just drop that 2. I don't add 1 to the 8, and I have negative 0.588. Let's look at the next problem. Write the decimals as simplified fractions or mixed numbers. Okay, we're going to do this by hand. So it's negative, and all I need for that is put a negative sign out front. And now this is 46 hundredths, or 46 over 100. So notice all you need to do is write the entire digit to the right of the decimal point. Okay, and then the denominator will be a 1 with however many zeros are to the right of the decimal point. So there was 2 digits here, so I have 2 zeros. So it's a tens place, hundredths place, so I wrote 100, but that's another way to think about it. Okay, we need to simplify it. The good thing about 100, its prime factors are only 2 and 5, so you just need to check to see if the numerator is divisible by 2 or 5, which it is in this case. It is even, so I'm going to divide by 2, and we have negative 23 over 50. 23 is not divisible by 2 or 5, so it's completely simplified. Let's look at the next one, 42, and again that's going to be over 100 because we have the hundredths place. Okay, now I'll simplify. 42 is divisible by 2 because it's even. So I divided the top and the bottom by 2, and that is 21 over 50. Okay. 21 is not divisible by 2 or 5. It's not even, doesn't end in 0, 5, so this is completely simplified. Okay. Now we have a number with a whole number part, and that's where the mixed number part comes in, but it's really simple. Basically, everything to the left of the decimal point you just write as a whole number. Now to the right, 008 is just 8. And we're going to write that over a 1 with 1, 2, 3 zeros. So that's the thousandths place. Okay. Now we need to simplify this fraction, and we're going to do that probably in a couple of steps. So I notice they're both even. I'm just going to write that to the left a little bit so we don't run out of room. Okay. So I'm going to divide them both by 2. Just the fractional part, not the mixed number. So that's 4 and 4 over 500. Notice these are both still even, so I have to simplify more. 4 divided by 2, 500 divided by 2, so that's 4 and 2 over 250. They're both still even, so I'm going to keep simplifying. 2 divided by 2, 250 divided by 2, so that's 4 and 1 over 125. Now they don't share any common factors besides 1, so this is completely simplified. You could If you notice they both are divisible by 8, you could do that at the start, but I think just keep simplifying till you can't simplify anymore works well.